this house for 5 years now, and the feature which we really love about in this house is this is in the very lively part of the town, right? And as you come out of the house, right, you kind of end up into chit chat with great food, great neighborhood, great neighbors. That's also that we love living in this neighborhood. And from a house perspective, this is just the right size for us. We're a small family, right? And we realize that kind of gives us a great space of us being living in this house on this side. And if our families and guests are around, then they can be on the other side. If the kids are playing, they are on the other side. And also the great part is just a small little land space in between the house, right? Which is like, wow, right? The third thing which we kind of love living in this house is the communal space. Previously, we used to call this the party house when we were young. As we are growing old, we call this as a more communal space because we love sitting here, having a coffee, meeting our friends, right? And the third thing the last thing which I can think of we love living in this house is the high ceilings, right? It just that it gives so much of breathing air, the space, the feeling of kind of being big, huge, big, right? Yeah.
So as part of the design, one of the ambitions was to trace back its very origin. So for the front facade, which they actually peel off the old layers because this is about 100 years old building. So peel off every layer to reveal the very original color and tones. And to our surprise, we found that there were actually a few shades of colors. So the end result is like a watercolor rendering. You know, how colors
over a period of time they rub on each other. And,
if you notice, most of the cores they are kept to the central, so that the passageway is always to the side. So that when the doors are closed, you get this vista all the way 55 meters through. Don't know whether you
No. That's one thing which we also admire is it gives a huge feeling because when you are at the door and the door is closed, you don't know how big and how long the house is. Right? So when you come in and when you stand there and the door is closed, it's like, oh my god.
Which is rather rare in Singapore context. So we felt strongly to keep this central space open so that the neighbors that are flanking the battling could view this greenery all from the other side. So this is a shared backdrop for everybody. Instead of having physically built and extended all the way to the river.
So, but last 5 years, all the trees have grown. So when we kind of get up in the morning and get ourselves ready and do our brush, just kind of looking and having that big view outside, right? And for us, initially when we came in, we said like, oh my god, no mirror. How are we going to kind of brush our teeth, right? But when we realized, right, is that like this view is magical. Now when we go in the hotels and we look at the mirror, we feel a bit odd.
So we stayed here for about a week. I realized that we actually don't need air conditioning here because it was meant to design to respond to the climate. So we have these small vertical apertures that can be left open most of the time, and then you allow daylight and also natural ventilation through
to come in.
Yes, and you have doors that once open, you have direct access to the outdoor. And then for the front, but I guess the bedroom you need to be air conditioned sometimes because of traffic noise and dust. That's a major constraint.
I agree. I mean, that's the only place where we switch on air conditioning in this house, right? I mean, sometimes in the afternoon maybe we switch off behind, right? But if it gets too hot, but in the evening it's pleasant, right? And it's nice kind of when we sit over here, these two fans are more than enough because of like the high ceilings, and also because it rains a lot here in Singapore, so it's so nice to kind of just sit over here, admire the rain outside, right? It's like wow.
Have you ever wondered why there isn't a connected pathway to the rear extension?
Actually, we thought that it would have aesthetically didn't make sense, right? I mean, I would not kind of like to put anything, right? It looks so natural, and we really enjoy that because a lot of time my mom came in like, if it rains, how do you go? We take umbrellas. It's so much fun.
Yeah. That was exactly the intention. Because so I protected and sheltered most of the time, and living in the tropical country, and then you don't really enjoy the rain. It makes all difference. Holding an umbrella and crossing from one place to another.
In your own house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, to begin with, this is not a very big space. It's long and narrow, so it will feel spacious as much as possible. So the original configuration was very different. Over here up to the rear boundary, this used to be a half courtyard. So one side is the toilet, and then passage to the toilet, and then this is a small courtyard. But because he has bought over this real property, now we have an opportunity to create another courtyard. So that's why this garden space came about. And because of that, we can create this big communal space that houses the kitchen and the dining. And for the rear extension, instead of, because this is an intermediate terrace situation, so instead of having the built up part all the way to the side boundary, we set off from the side boundary, so that when you are in any of the cubicles, you have immediate access to the greenery and outdoor space. And you are sheltered, but at the same time you feel outdoor. That was the intention. The second challenge is more challenging, as in how to create a sense of history, heritage and tradition in an old space, but yet it's catered for contemporary living. So initially the wall finishes were meant to be plaster wall, but while we're trying to make good to the existing plaster, we realized we have to remove the plaster in order to create a new one. So while doing so, we realized that the old brick walls were so charming that it feels so ashamed to plaster it back and cover it up. So why not just expose all the brick walls? And in doing so, we realized that different parts of the house, you get different
kind of
supply. This area is particularly brittle, whereas this side is more hard. So it also reveals how this place has gone through series of renovations and owners, and we purposely keep those cavities so that it gives one a clue of what this used to be. It was a second story that used for storage space for the shop store. And we also kept some of the old boundary walls untouched, although it's really torn and tattered. So it gives a sense of where the old boundary line was.
Just behind the windows. And also there's a new break because that's the extension which you added. And then the other challenge was to how this new extension would to have a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue with the old shophouse. So initially in the tender drawings, this was meant to be whitewashed, same as the front. But because these bricks were rebuilt, so we decided to have a change of material instead. And we went for this stone rendering, which was kind of rather unconventional in Singapore's context. Because to render floor using stones is common, but for wall, not very common.
So it took a lot of convincing in order for the contractor to go ahead. We did a lot more mock-ups. So this is the eventual result, and I feel that it's kind of just in terms of material, there's engagement between the old and the new.
And then also what we feel like is that we think that it has a Japanese influence, a Balinese influence, and of course a Singapore shophouse kind of old feel to the place. It's kind of a hybrid of all the three cultures kind of coming together.
Singapore is getting more cosmopolitan. So I think it also kind of reflects that situation.
And the use of wood everywhere also kind of adds to the whole texture.
It gives warmth.
Otherwise, sometimes what we see is that like these industrial houses looks very cold. It doesn't have energy which gives you back. It doesn't have the warmth. I think with the use of wood everywhere, it just kind of created the whole warmth.
And realized that children feel particularly comfortable with wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it gives it's a very sensorial material.
So how long did it took for you to?
The construction process, I think, was extended for a few months because along the way we made changes
Yeah.
as we respond to the
Yeah.
site. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even for this real facade this wasn't the intention. It was meant to be louvered glass, adjustable, and then with fixed panels. But then it kind of doesn't relate very well with the context and with the real extension. So eventually we came up with this idea of having two tall panels. Yeah.
We used to live in a condominium long ago, right? And we thought that's the living, that's how people live, right? And that's how we have lived our life, right? And we never thought that space can actually kind of give you energy back, right? I think once we moved back in this house, that's when we realized that a house can give you energy back, right? And sometimes when you are working too hard, you come back and you walk in the house and you look at the view and you look at the entire aesthetic of the house, you get the energy back. You feel humbled, you feel great, right? You sit over there, you look at the big door and you're like, oh, you're too small. So it gives you the positivity, it gives you the energy back. And I think uh, I feel that it has a lot to do with the material you used. It has a lot to do with the choice of colors, with the way you kind of created the communal space, because this is what gives the energy back, right? I feel all the material used is really nice. It blends with the earth. It blends with the normal kind of nature things, right? It doesn't feel out of the place, right? It's all very raw, but yet very quirky, right? Like the walls are raw, right? You still kind of get the bare feeling, but when you look at the big kind of a table there, it's all very kind of polished. It's all very neat. It's all good granite there, so you're gonna get a very right blend of you being in the worldly thing and also being bare, right? So I think um, it's very soulful living here.
I'm very glad to hear that, yeah. Because that was the real intention behind any design that I'm doing is to create that kind of energy because this kind of energy money can't buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that if it resonates well with the users then that's I mean the objective has been made. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's also about how a place could help bring people together and making people connect with each other better and also people with the environment. Yeah. And I believe that the materials itself have energies. That's why I'm more inclined to choose using raw materials because I feel that they are still alive and they are creating that energy that resonates with the other. Yeah, instead of using very processed materials that I feel is rather dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's what we like, because the housing, most of the developers, when they build the house, they kind of want to maximize the space. They want to use every inch to give extra room and extra space and count extra PSF, build a pool as well, build a tennis court as well, build everything in over there. But they then just kind of forget about, right, is that people kind of bond with people, right? And they need more space and they need more bright light, they need more sunlight, right? And they can't be just stepping on each other.
As architects, I thought feelings is very much important in the design aspects. Yeah, because if you just design just based on a square feet,
Yeah.
you won't. The end result will be very different if you don't activate your heart.
No, I mean, we also have other day a very senior lawyer whom we work with. He came in over here and he says that, what the hell have you built over here? You could have built 2 rooms over here. But you know, it also depends upon the people. It also depends upon the kind of
Correct.
people who want to live in, right? I think for them it's all about kind of rooms, right? It's not about space. It's not about living together, right? So.